I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission. It's Thursday, February 4th, about 6:01 p.m. And may we have Commissioner Allen please say the prayer, and then we'll have the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Thank you.
Our God in heaven, we're so grateful that we have this opportunity to come together tonight in the interest of wonderful things in this city. We ask you to be with each and every one of us, that we might be attentive and listening and learn, that we might be free to speak the peace, and that we might have our minds open to all things that come before us, that we might deal most fairly with everything. We're thankful, Father, for those of us that are on board that are willing to serve in this capacity. Give us the wisdom that we need to judge wisely. Be with our leader of our countries and the present dilemmas that they're in. We realize that you are the all-foreseeing God for all things. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, may I ask for an amendment to the agenda?
Yes, you may do that.
I left something off, and so this would be item 7 under new business. Discussion and possible action concerning promoting a part-time police officer to full-time.
Okay, if y'all would add that to your agendas.
I'm
okay. And may I have a motion to amend the agenda to add under new business an item 7, promotion of a part-time police officer to a full-time position.
Make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay, and we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, and is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then the motion carries. Okay, may I have approval of the January 7th minutes? A motion to approve the January 7th.
I'm going to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the January 7th minutes by Commissioner Allen. May I have a second? Is there a second on that?
I second.
Okay, and that's a second by Commissioner Mathis. And is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Is there public comment?
Good evening.
Hello.
Mayor La Paz and distinguished city commissioners, I'm Jenny Griner. I'm the HR Director and Medical Staff Coordinator for the Weems Memorial Hospital Organization. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you some exciting news about your local hospital. Weems proudly announces, and you've probably read in the paper, in the Facebook and local media, we proudly announce the addition of Dr. Emma Stoll in our clinic or primary care settings. Dr. Stoll began accepting new patients on January the 11th and will be providing health care services at Weems Medical Center West in Apalachicola and Weems Medical Center East in Carrabelle. Dr. Stoll received her medical degree from Ross University after receiving a bachelor's degree in zoology from Ohio State University and then an additional bachelor's degree in accounting from Kent State University. Originally from Ohio and after providing health care in the Buckeye State, Dr. Stoll relocated to the Marathon, Florida area where she spent approximately 10 years providing health care in the warmer climate. Who wouldn't want to move from Ohio to Florida? Dr. Stoll and her family arrived in the Florida Panhandle over a year ago, where she enjoys activities such as horseback riding, rescuing Samoyeds, spending time with her family, and home decorating. In fact, this evening it was her turn to feed the dogs, the barn cats, and the horses, and she's currently traveling back and forth to the Panama City area. So she was here at Weems East earlier today providing health care, then traveled to Panama City, so she's unable to be here tonight with us. Previously, Dr. Stoll has volunteered her medical services in Madagascar. She's been a former hospital board member, a member of the Keys Area Interdenominational Resources, which is a nonprofit organization seeking to serve families and individuals in crisis. As well as in 2012, Dr. Stoll was elected as a member of the leading physicians of the world. She has a strong passion in the area of diabetes and obesity, and she began accepting patients and will accept new patients at Weems East and West, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Along with Dr. Stoll, we have an addition to our staff of Jared Wester. Jared is here tonight with me, and he is our new Emergency Medical Services Director. He began his career with us Monday. Yeah, Monday. Jared started with us Monday. So he's got a good bird's eye view of Franklin County. Originally from Gulf County, where he was dual enrolled in Port St. Joe High School and Gulf Coast Community College, now Gulf Coast State College. Jared completed his EMT coursework prior to his high school graduation. So literally, he received his high school diploma one night, and because you can't get your Florida license until you have your diploma, and he had already completed his coursework for EMT, he had to travel the next day to Tallahassee to actually get his EMT license. Among his many accomplishments in his career to date include board certification as a flight paramedic with regard to critical care transport. He's also an advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, and basic life support instructor. He's been trained in advanced stroke life support and high-risk obstetrics transport. He's no stranger to rural health care in the Florida Panhandle and is passionate about clinical education. Jared, along with his wife Corey and 3 young children, have already relocated to Franklin County, and they're looking forward to becoming more involved in our wonderful community. So if you would join me and please welcome him, Jared Wester, to our area.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to come and say thank you so very much. My family and I have gotten moved into the area, and all of the communities have just been so welcoming, and we want to thank you so much for that. As a husband and a father, that means a lot to me, and just a wonderful, wonderful area. I hope that you guys have been pleased with the EMS services that have been rendered in the past, but we know that we have a lot of grounds for improvement, a lot of good things on the horizon, and really the sky's the limit. We're making some great advances. We got a wonderful staff base and wonderful equipment to work with, and nothing but better improvements on the horizon. So anything at all that we can do, open door policy to hear anything that we can do that may be a good suggestion on advancements in the future and moving forward. By all means, please do those things and ask those questions so we can provide the services that you need so desperately. Absolutely. And again, thank you very, very much. Looking forward to the future. Any questions, I'll be glad to entertain. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Wester, thank you for coming and introducing yourself. And Ms. Griner, thank you for introducing Dr. Stoll and Mr. Wester, providing their biographies and background. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Are there any questions? Does anyone have questions?
No, I would just say thank you for doing this, because we would certainly need that kind of service here, and it's just one more step in bringing our city up to speed. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to commissioners' reports. Commissioner Walden.
Yeah, I got one for
Okay.
Chief Overton. He had 57 calls dispatch, alarm calls 8, animal calls 2, 5 arrests, assistant Franklin County Sheriff Office 9 times, Florida Highway Patrol 4, animal control 2, 2 burglary calls, citizen assist 8, domestic calls 2, follow-up investigations 10, disturbance calls 6, intoxicated persons 5, unlocked vehicles 4, theft calls 2, traffic stops 41, traffic citation issued 4, traffic crashes 4, 94 security checks of our businesses. Thank you, Chief. I also like to recognize my bosses from Franklin CI, Warden Smith, Assistant Warden Mills. Appreciate everything y'all do for the city of Carrabelle. If you'd like to say anything?
Well, the only thing that I really need to say is that, you know, we are short-staffed, and anyone knows of anybody that needs a correctional officer's position, so please send them our way. We're going to have, I think, a job fair Next week, I think it's up at the library, so if anybody would like to, come up there and apply for a job, please, we need the help. But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Commissioner Mathis?
I have
anything? Okay. Commissioner Allen, do you have anything, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I do have a little bit I want to talk about. I've spent a lot of sleepless nights over this, but I think it's a matter of misfeasance, or non-feasance, as the case may be, if I don't deal with it. In our last meeting, an issue came up about getting W-2s and 1099s at the same time. I had a career, not a career, I had a few years with Internal Revenue Service, and I did small business tax workshops. And when the statement was made, it immediately didn't register that something's wrong with that. And so I decided to do the research and brief up on what I believe to be the truth. I even asked another CPA about it, and he said, yeah, that's right, it's illegal. And so if Mr. Mark Payne, our CPA, was quoted as being saying that it was against the law or illegal or against the statute, something to that effect. I tried to get the exact wording of the statement, but I couldn't get it. So I turned up the TV just as loud as I could and plugged my earset right inside my head. And finally, the only solution was to call Mr. Payne and ask him about that. And he said, yes, that's right. And I said, did you know that Mr. Noble was a policeman? And he served part-time as a policeman. And the 1099 had to do with his airport work as a contractor. He said, oh, I didn't know that. And one of the things you have to do in answering any kind of IRS or legal question is to get the facts and the circumstances straight. I remember one time I was working on the gate on the telephone at IRS, and a person called up and said, April 15th, 1993, I know, because that was tax day. And he said, can I deduct, what's the standard mileage deduction? And I knew what it was, but there are several different answers to that question. And so I said, well, that day I couldn't answer it because somebody else was supposed to answer it, so I said, I'll transfer your call. The call line was busy, so I come back, and it's April 15th. I said, well, I'm sorry, sir, the line's busy. I'll write it up, and we'll get back to you within 10 days. He loved that. So he said, well, I've got to get them in right now. I said, well, I understand that. Do you have your Club 17 there with you? He said, well, yes, I do. He said, I go to page 35, first column, about middle of the page. And my headset, and it was my supervisor. And we terminated the call, and I said, I was just trying to help the fella. And he says, your job is not to help, but you're supposed to ask the 20 questions and to get all the facts before you give an answer. Well, that's sort of the situation here. The question was given, and I know this is not the mayor's fault. And Mark answered the question, and it's not necessarily his fault. But if the facts were presented and you had you can get 1099s and W-2s. Mark suggested I go to the website and ask the question, can you get 1099s and W-2s? Which I had already done, and I made that up before I got to talk to him. And so I have here several documents, and I believe the documents that are used in the meeting should be free to all. You can pass that on as you will. And the first one is from the Office of General Counsel, Summary of Federal Laws. W-2 and 1099s are the same person. That's the headline. The IRS says you cannot give a W-2 and a 1099 to the same person in the same year. Now that's the standard answer, right? And that's what you would get in 9 times out of 10. However, some IRS agents have incorrectly told taxpayers this, but the official IRS position is that facts and circumstances always dictate how a worker is classified for employee, W-2, or independent contractor, 1099. Similarly, various articles I've read on this topic suggest that the IRS audit is virtually guaranteed if an employer issues both a W-2 and a 1099 the same year. You're asking for an audit if you do that to the same person. But if you show that it was 2 different jobs, not related, then there's no violation of the law there. And then he goes on, in the federal tax case, Ramirez, Commissioner of the tax court, the fact that a person is an employee in one capacity does not foreclose the possibility that he can be an independent contractor with the same employer in another context. Then he gives some examples here of that. For example, a dental assistant asked if she can clean the dental office on the weekend. She's paid a fixed weekly fee for that. Now, she also gets a W-2 for her work as a dental assistant. So there's no problem. She can get a W-2 and a 1099. And there's just all kinds of examples of that I'm not going to bother you with. So what does it matter? Well, the biggest thing that matters is that it might cause an audit. And it could cause the auditors to come into our city and try to look at all of our W-2s and 1099s to see if they are indeed legal, because it's two different jobs, as we say here. But a person can be both an employee and an independent contractor if their sideline services are not a part of regular job duties. So then going to the next page, while most workers will get only one of these forms, sometimes the same worker will receive both. The IRS will presume that a worker is an employee unless there's evidence to the contrary. Now, with the evidence, that changes the whole ballgame. But it's the major way that the IRS enforces the tax laws. And they lose and Mr. Payne suggested that why most people try to get away with this is that a fellow's a contractor and he gets 1099, but he goes to the office and says, well, no, look, I'm not getting any workman's compensation or anything, so how about give you a W-2 for half of my income? Well, that baby is wrong. And that's what the IRS would catch. And the effect of that is that the city or the company, whoever does that, is going to be liable for the taxes. It's not the individual necessarily himself that's the problem. It's going to be the paying of the payroll taxes by the company. So I just share that with you. And then he goes on to say there are two situations in which an independent contractor can receive both 1099 and W-2. First, if the worker performed duties as an employee and independent contractor concurrently for the same employer. Basically, this means the worker had a job as an employee and another job as a contractor for the same company. The other situation is where the worker held two jobs several times in a year and you got two different things. So the risk is that if you do that, pay W-2 and 1099, you are setting yourself up for an audit, and there is a risk in that if you can't really document that you have the evidence to do it. Going to the next page, I'm sorry. I think that's enough, don't you? You get the point?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hold off on that. And I just think that because of the mistake, and I think it's just as much an innocent mistake as many other things are. So I just wanted to set the record straight, and I felt like this information had to be put on the board and on the TV because there are a lot of people out there that are, all up in arms because, that Mr. Mark, he's just double-dipping, and doing all this and that. And I heard a lot of talk about that this month. So I felt it was my obligation as a commissioner and duly appointed to try to deal with that issue and put this in the record. And you can file these documents with the papers. Any questions?
We thank you, Commissioner Allen. I do want to say that I don't believe that I said that they cannot work as an employee and a subcontractor at the same time. I just said that it muddies the water. And how I found out that the airport manager was a full-time employee was through the James Moore accounting firm with Mr. Gary Spar, who did alert me to that and actually told me the salaries for each year that he was an active employee. I did say, though, that it was quoted to me that there is a Florida statute saying that you cannot give discounted rates and free something.
I understand that, and that's another issue completely. But that's why I asked for, I had asked for under the Freedom of Information Act, for the information of how you said it, what you said, and the paper that you had, that you read at the meeting. And so that's why I'm submitting my
And
papers.
that's been provided, I don't know, the attorney is going to
He's
review
looking at it.
that. Yes.
And I welcome his
Okay,
advice on
fine.
it. But I just wanted to be sure. And I wasn't sure what I understood, that, with the hearing I got, or don't have, I do get things right sometimes, and I just wanted to find, and I really wanted that information before I called Mr. Payne. But it didn't work out that way, so I had to do it on my own.
Well, we discussed, we went to the Florida leader cities, I did as well, because I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't be information that might violate the public meeting
I understand.
laws. And if any of the other commissioners would like that information, they're welcome to have it.
And I appreciate your position on that. We do need to observe the sunshine law. I firmly believe that, and I appreciate you for doing that.
Is there anything else, Commissioner?
That would be all I have at this time. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
And I do have those records now as a matter of public records.
Okay, very good.
All right. Okay then, and then I have a little bit of information. I'd just like to let y'all know at the personal invitation of Congresswoman Gwen Graham, the city administrator and I attended a luncheon at Lynn's Seafood on January the 21st, and this was one of the Congresswoman's stop along her North Florida farm tour to discuss with local Franklin County leaders their concerns regarding freshwater issues in the Apalachicola Bay and its effect on local seafood workers. And I took an opportunity there to talk with her on a one-on-one discussion where I brought up the very important issues and concerns regarding derelict and sunken boats, not just here in Franklin County, but throughout all of Florida waterways. The severity of the numbers of sunken vessels had been unknown to the Congresswoman and her staff. So during the lunch, she raised the issue in the public, and that promoted a good round of discussion where actually everyone participated in the discussion. There were county leaders from all over the county, and everyone talked about the navigational and environmental hazards and the problems around with obtaining authorization to remove these boats, and definite problems in funding for removing these sunken vessels. But now very recently after that, since it kind of came out that we had that discussion, it was brought to my attention that in 2015, a new or an updated Florida statute chapter number 82311 addresses the relocation and removal of derelict vessels and specifies which law enforcement agencies may cause removal or relocation of these vessels. And so I took the liberty to copy the chapter 823.11, and with the approval of the commissioners, here it is, and I even hand wrote over on it. I'd like to ask the city attorney to review this statute and report back to us. And I think I bolded the part, especially where it talks about what law agencies or law enforcement agencies can cause these boats to be removed. Okay, then I would ask, if I say this name wrong, if Ms. Swoboda would please correct me. I know she knows how to say that. Ilse Newell Fund. Ilse, thank you so much. The Ilse Newell Fund for Performing Arts has requested a letter of support from this commission supporting their application to Visit Florida for a grant for $2,500 during January and February of 2016. The Ilse Newell Performing Arts Foundation will present 8 professional classical concerts in Apalachicola and 8 jazz concerts in Carrabelle. Their executive board is dedicated to promotion of cultural activities, production of professional musical concerts during the low tourism season, and they support Franklin County Consolidated High School Seahawk Band and Music Department with mentoring, financial support, and education. Now this is the letter that I received, and then there was also a sample letter from the Tourist Development Council, and this is the letter requesting support. It's merely a letter of support to for their Visit Florida grant. It does not commit the city of Carrabelle to funding of any type. In fact, this last July or August, this board approved a similar letter of support for the Ilse Newell Fund Visit Florida 2015 application. So I have prepared a sample letter, if that's all right. It's very similar to the one that the TDC, if it's all right, do y'all mind if we support their application to the Visit Florida? Is that all right?
Not at all.
Okay. All right then.
Cameron's working on one of the grants right
Do
now.
you want to read the letter?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then would you pass that down into, okay. And then can I have my other stuff back, please? Thank you so much.
Yeah, we can take it forward.
All right. Then I just want to go ahead and pass this down, and I'm just going to add to pass that to the clerk so she'll have that. I'm going to add to my report here. I just want to thank Warden Smith and Deputy Warden Mills for their meeting with us on Tuesday morning with Charlie Painter and Courtney Dempsey. We just wanted to discuss some lift station facilities and our pump facilities and how they operate with the DOC's bar screen facility is what we call it. And that's a long filtering system into our lift station. And we sure appreciate your cooperation. And we know y'all were busy that day, and we thank you for taking time meeting with us very much. Thank you. And that's all I have. Okay, so then we'll move on to Inovia staff report.
All right, thank you. Just to brief you on projects in the city. The Avenue B resurfacing project is complete. The new striping has been installed, and we received the final pay request from the contractor, so we're processing that.
And it's very nice.
Yes, it did
Solves the problem.
works well. All right, secondly, on the city road paving projects, the Franklin County contractor, C.W. Roberts, provided us with their final pricing based on plans and bid tabulation that we provided. We've provided that to the city, and we anticipate that you'll be making a decision on which roadways will be selected for improvement, and we'll coordinate with Franklin County for change order for that work. The CDBG grant, there was a meeting earlier this evening. I understand it went well and the project was brought forward. So we'll continue to coordinate with Fred Fox on that. And I believe there's a public hearing on that as well. The FERDAP grant for the Sands Park Phase 2 and 3, that information was provided to Courtney. So those plans are complete. And lastly, the Fifth Avenue depression evaluation. We've executed the contract for the geotechnical investigation for that work. So I'm sure we're all glad to see that get fixed. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have questions for Mr. Large?
Thank you.
Okay. And
Thank you very much for doing this. I talked to him last time. We did send it down a little early to give us a chance to read it. And once again, it's easier to read it than to hear it.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to ask about the FERDAP grant for Sands Park with the plans are completed. When will that the bid process start on that? Or maybe I'm a little too soon with my questioning. Maybe I should ask that next month.
I think I need to get with Courtney
Okay, that's
and
fine.
make sure that everything's as it needs to be.
Okay,
And so I need to review that with her. And if everything's satisfactory, we'll put it out for bid right
Okay.
away.
I believe we're still waiting for them to go ahead from the DD.
okay,
I sent in all the commencement documents, but I'm still waiting for the final, okay.
all right. I thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Large. Thank you for your work. All right, then we have Waterfront Partnership, Ms. Tamara Allen.
Good evening, it's nice to see all of you again, and I handed out a copy of my report to you all just prior to the meeting.
Mike?
No, I just, my fingers weren't working too good, thank you. We actually have some forward progress on the environmental team's activity with the McKissick Beach Plan, and which we call it for short, but it's the management plan for Jordan's Bayou and McKissick Beach. And we actually have a professor from FSU and a group of students who will be coming down this weekend to do the botanical and, what's the other, the animal and the plant diversity studies. I can't think of what you call the animal study, but they come and count what plants are in the area, what animals are in the area, and write up a formal report that has to be part of this management plan. So they're coming and doing that for us for free of charge, which is a good thing. And we have had some conversation back and forth between the EP and the person who's actually writing the document for us about questions answered so we could move forward. So there is some small movement with that, and we're still hoping to push it forward as fast as we can. It's just slower than pushing mud. And we're still working on, I was very interested in the statute that you brought up about the derelict boats, because we're still working on attempting to get the bayliner that's upside down in the middle of the river, get that out of the river, and our environmental protection team has been working on that and trying to secure, we've got some funds identified, and through help with the city and help with Waterfronts Partnership, hopefully we can, in the near future, we've gotten all the papers signed, and hopefully we'll
Mr.
be
Butler
able to
was able to secure that,
Yes.
the papers, we do
Yes.
appreciate that, and we appreciate Mr. Rob Powell's working on that, probably for the past 8 to 10
He
months.
has been wonderful, and we are a little concerned based on our read of the law that since Carrabelle Cares is actually the official legal entity, that should anything happen during the moving of the boat, we would be responsible. I mean, should the boat get loose and injure somebody or another boat, then we're just a little worried about our insurance for that. But we still want to go. Most of us are very enthusiastic about going forward, and I believe we will.
The folks that will be doing the actual removal, would they sign a liability, a waiver of some sort?
That's what we're working through with everybody. We just, it seemed like such a good idea and such an easy thing to apply some money towards that, and everybody does their part, and then, but since it's being done in the name of essentially Carrabelle Cares, because we're the legal entity, then we just don't want to go to jail for.
It's all very complicated.
It is. It's a lot more complicated than it seems like it should be. I did contact the staff of the Department of Environmental Protection Brownfields program, and they are continuing to move forward on the removal of the petroleum products that are at the sugar shack and around the water plant. And they said it would be, quote, later this month, but that was what they said last month. So, but they did say they would inform us 2 weeks prior to that time. And so right this minute, that area is pretty full of dirt, where the dirt has been taken out down at the waterfront. So I don't think those things will have much to do with one another, but hopefully we'll get that all settled out. And I hope it'll be this month. It's well overdue. My third item is our historical team is preparing a Visit Florida grant also, and I was coming tonight to ask you if you would give us a letter of support. I did not bring the sample, but it's basically, it's just another similar letter to that, which I can provide for you tomorrow if you all are in agreement. But basically requesting the $10,000 for advertising under the cultural history nature program. I can't think of what R stands for. But to do historical tourism in Carrabelle and the east end of the county. And with that money, we would be matching it with money that comes to the Carrabelle History Museum with $3,000. It has to be matched dollar for dollar. The Carrabelle History Museum would put up $3,000 to match. And then we are working with the TDC to get $2,000 worth of Forgotten Coast TV time. So, because we believe 75% of all the visitors in the county are repeat visitors, and the vast majority of them are on where am I? On St. George Island. I am not in Georgia. And anyway, so we were thinking that a large chunk of it should be addressed to the people that are the majority of our visitors, as well as the ones here in Carrabelle as well. But doing a campaign about the first major boom, economic boom in Carrabelle, when the Virgin Forest met the Deepwater Port and created this. It was because of our Deepwater Port that we had, that Carrabelle ended up being a lumber capital of this area because of the ease of getting the international ships in here. And I'm sure I've told some of you before that in the year 1899 and 1900, there were more international ships in and out of Carrabelle with goods than any place else on the Gulf Coast. And that is absolutely astounding, but I think it's what turned us in from a fishing village into a city. So we're hopeful that this is a very appealing topic and it'll help the whole east end of the county. So we're hopeful to move ahead. And I was
Would you all like then to have a letter of support then sent to Visit Florida on behalf of the Waterfront Partnership? Okay. Would you all like,
Yes.
if you would, okay, that's fine with me. If you would provide a
I will
letter
have the letter
to
to you.
Courtney tomorrow, and I'll sign that as well
Okay.
as the other letter.
I was-
Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't bring that with me, but we are planning another, we're having a community emergency response team meeting later this month on the 18th, and we are in the process of planning a new training. So if you or anyone else you know in the community would like to be a part of the emergency management, community emergency response team, please let me know, or Commissioner Allen, and we'll get you on the list for that training, which, and we'd appreciate any help you could get new people for this opportunity. And I just wanted to let you know, in case you've been worried, that we are beginning working with the city, the Chamber of Commerce, and other local organizations on the planning of the Riverfront Festival for this year, which, as you know, is the 4th weekend in April, which this year is the 23rd and 24th. And vendor booths are available, and there's lots and lots of need for opportunities for people to volunteer. So we'd appreciate hearing from anybody that wants to help us. We need a lot of help. And just the final thing is to let you know that our steering committee is pulling together a Restore Act proposals from the original visioning documents that we had back in 2008, and then as it's evolved up during the more recent years. So hopefully we'll have those to you in time for them to be considered when we get to the point of doing those. And our next meeting is on the 20th at the library, and we'd be glad for any of you to join us. And so that's the end of my Waterfronts Partnership comments. Is there anybody who has any questions about any of that? Okay.
We thank you so
Well,
much.
before I leave, I want to change hats. Let me take off my Waterfront hat, put on my Carrabelle Cares hat. And it is my pleasure, it's not as big as those big ones you get, but it's my pleasure for Carrabelle Cares to present the city with a check there's a real check to go along with this symbolic check of $4,116.97 to be used for bricks for the new bricks for the Veterans Wall. This money was put in an account back before we even built the wall, and it was to be used to do repairs, but also to be sure that we had bricks for people who couldn't afford to buy their own bricks. And so we've used that over the years for any number of those things, and it seemed like the right thing to do to be able to complete the intent of this money by presenting this to the city. And so I know that I wanted you all to know this is a token of our donation to the city, and I wanted to bring it
That's
to you.
very nice, and that will go, if you just present that to Courtney, and then that goes to the Community Redevelopment Agency, who has purchased the brick. All the bricks are here now, pretty much. They had all of them arrived in just second.
We have this large check.
So the shipment, most all of them are inside this room right here, and then they'll be installed shortly as soon as Courtney can make the arrangements with the brick mason. So thank you very much, Ms. Tamron. Our Veterans Wall is going to be looking -50 pretty soon. All the bricks that are on there are going to come off, and we're going to have all new bricks professionally placed up there.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
How many bricks?
You know,
Oh,
probably number 300.
okay. All right. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have anything to say to Ms. Tam? Okay. All right, then we'll move forward with the Economic Development Council. Okay, there's no report. The attorney's report.
A very quick one on just a confusing thing that popped up at the last meeting. Madam Mayor had asked me to just quickly address it, is amendments to motions. I had given some advice that made it even more confusing. Just think of it this way, and it's pretty simple, that if there's a motion that's been made and seconded during the discussion portion, if you want to make a change to it, any commissioner can, during a break in the conversation, the debate, can make a motion to amend the motion that's being debated, and that motion needs a second and then can be discussed itself and become an amendment if passed. Basically, then you have an amended motion that goes up for vote. But if anybody has any questions on that, I did a little description that Keisha will keep up here, so it keeps for us all straight on the procedure.
And I gave them all.
Okay, do
Everybody
you
has
have
copies.
any
Good.
questions?
Would you like to go over that one more time, please?
Sure. We had some confusion at the last meeting, and I only added to it with some of my, just when we were going through some amendments to a motion that was on the floor. So the way that goes, the simple version, of course, never knows what we'll run into, but the simple version is that if a motion is made, seconded, and now is being discussed, during a break in that discussion, if something occurs to you that you think, you know what, that motion really isn't quite right, I want to amend a portion of it, that you would then, as a commissioner, make that motion, say, I'd like a motion to amend the pending motion, you state what amendment you want, you would need a second on that motion to amend, there'd be a vote on that motion to amend, and if it passes, then it's, now you got yourself a new motion or an amended motion that everybody's going to vote on.
Thank you.
Sure.
So we just wanted to make sure, that we knew how to deal with amended motions. So you have your basic motion, and then a commissioner may, when there's a break, the first motion has to be seconded, and we're in discussion. There has to be a break. You're not supposed to, commissioner shouldn't interrupt the speaker. And then when there's a break, that motion can be amended, and there has to be a second to that, and then you deal with that amendment, and then you go back to the main motion, which is now amended, and deal with that. You can have a second amendment to a motion. You can have a third amendment, but to keep things simple here, I would just request that we just deal with one amendment per motion at a time, not to have the second and third tier amendments.
So while, as far as I know, we haven't really adopted the Robert's Rules of Order as our parliamentary procedure, but it might be something we need to think more about. This thing get more complicated.
Historically, we have, I believe you're correct, that we have not formally adopted them, we do follow them. We do try to follow them.
We do it sort of classy.
We do. That's right.
We sort of like Robert's Rules.
Carrabelle rules.
But we wanted to make sure, you know, that we're dealing with it
That's right.
correctly.
Well, you're right.
We want to do that.
That's good.
And then, is there anything else, Mr. Hartman?
No, nothing
Do
else.
y'all have any questions, any more questions? Okay, then, Ms. Courtney, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the city administrator? All right, then, Ms. Keisha, do you have anything?
I want to remind everybody, public workshop, February 16th at 6 o'clock to discuss the parking layout on Marine Street and possible relocation of the World's Smallest Police Station. That's February 16th at 6 o'clock. Also, next month's regularly scheduled meeting will be March the 10th instead of March the 3rd. So make note of that.
That would be
And I'll
the
be out of town.
second Thursday in March. Okay, so we decided that last month. Okay, does anyone have any more questions for Ms. Keisha? Okay, all right, then we'll move on to public hearing to Resolution 022016. And if the attorney would like to read that, that's regarding our revisions to the personnel policy.
All right. As the mayor mentioned, this is basically the amended personnel policy that incorporated the amendments that you all discussed at prior meetings. Resolution 02-16, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Carrabelle amending the policies and procedures regarding city personnel, providing findings, providing for an effective date. Findings, whereas the City of Carrabelle is a Florida municipality duly incorporated with all the rights and powers as provided in Section 2B, Article 8 of the state constitution, whereas the City of Carrabelle has in place a document entitled Personnel Policy for Employees of the City of Carrabelle, Florida. This personnel policy was adopted by the city in 2011 and replaced all prior personnel policies, rules and regulations, ordinances, resolutions, and amendments or changes thereto previously published or adopted. Whereas the city has held a series of public meetings for the purpose of discussing amendments to the existing personnel policy, and therefore be it resolved by the City Commission, City of Carrabelle, Florida, that the city finds that the adoption of certain amendments to the city personnel policy discussed at the city meetings should be implemented. The city adopts Section 2. The city adopts the attached document entitled Personnel Policy for Employees of the City of Carrabelle, Florida, effective on the date set forth below. A copy of the document entitled Personnel Policy for Employees of the City of Carrabelle, Florida, adopted through this resolution is attached as Exhibit A hereto. This document is intended to replace the prior personnel policy document in its entirety. Section 3, effective date. This resolution shall take effect upon its adoption by the City Commission and signature by the mayor.
Thank you. Did everyone receive a copy? I know I had a copy in my mailbox. Did everyone receive a copy of the revisions that we made and approved or did not approve? Okay. Would we like to go ahead and make a motion to adopt this resolution with the new revisions to the personnel policy?
I move to adopt.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Allen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and a second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, then the motion carries. And that's Commissioner Allen and then Commissioner Walden. Okay, then we'll move forward to the second item under public hearing is the Community Development Block Grant Public Hearing Fair Housing Workshop. Presentation by Mr. Greg Fox.
That meeting is to just adjourn the meeting, and we'll go ahead and reopen the meeting.
Okay.
So we have a separation.
Okay, so then we need a motion, and we're going to have the public hearing first. Okay, all right, we need a motion to adjourn our regular city meeting at this,
I move
okay.
to adjourn.
And a second, please.
Second.
Okay, so that's a motion by Commissioner Allen, second by Commissioner Mathis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right then, and now we'll open the City of Carrabelle Community Development Block Grant first public hearing.
Okay, first off, both the first public hearing and the fair housing workshop, DEO requires sign-in sheets for each. So only has around 2 sign-in sheets. You need to sign both of them.
Randy, is that microphone on? I'll take it when
Okay, so
There it's on there.
Mr. Fox, you're saying that the audience needs to sign both of these sign-in sheets?
Correct.
Okay, and if you would please, that would be most helpful. Mr. Fox is diligently working with Mr. Large on a grant for our community.
The process for the public hearing is going to be that I'm going to first explain the program, answer any questions on the program. Then we'll open it up to public comment on any type of activities they would like the city to consider with the grant funding that we're going after. And then we'll get into the staff and Mr. Large's recommendation. And then I'll get into the recommendation from the Citizens Advisory Task Force, which I met earlier tonight. So first of all, we talk about the program and what it is. The Small Cities CDBG program is a HUD-funded program. It's been around a long time now, well over 30 years. And there's 2 parts. There's an entitlement part for larger cities and counties. HUD gives them money directly every year, and they're guaranteed funding. And there's a separate pot that goes to the state. In Florida's case, it has since 1984, that small cities like Carrabelle compete for, and that's what we're here to talk about this evening. And in that small cities category, there are 4 separate categories. The amount a community can apply for is anywhere between $600,000 and $750,000. And it's based upon the community's low moderate income population, based upon the last census. In Carrabelle's case, you're eligible to apply for up to $650,000 in 3 of the 4 categories, and I'll go into all that in a second. So you might see an ad from, say, Apalachicola, and their ad might say $700,000, and you go, why are they different than us? That's why, because their population fell in the next group, or you might see an ad for $600,000, and that community's population fell under your group. So that's why you see different numbers. There are 4 possible categories: housing rehabilitation, and that is where you go in and you would deal with about 10 families, 10 households that were low income. They own their own home, they have good title, and you would do an extensive rehabilitation or possibly even replacement of their home. And in housing rehabilitation, every code violation in the house has to be corrected. So unlike weatherization and some of the other programs, you can't just do a roof and move on. You have to correct every code violation in the property. The second category is commercial revitalization. That was the last category Carrabelle was involved with. That was a downtown streetscape project 3 or 4 years ago with the lighting and the farmers market area, and all that was done under a commercial revitalization grant. The third category is neighborhood revitalization, and that's improvements in residential areas, but the residential areas must be primarily low and moderate income. And then the last category, this is a standalone category, is economic development. In the first 3, housing, commercial, and neighborhood, you apply for a grant, you get a grant, you can't apply again to close out that grant and instead administratively closing you out. The last category, economic development, you can actually apply now for up to $1,500,000. And that was what we did out by the airport for the modular home manufacturer. It was unfortunate that didn't work out well, but the grant got water and sewer out there to his facility, and we were able to close out the grant with any consequences. At that point in time, your cap for that grant was also $650,000, but now it's up to $1,500,000. However, the business needs to commit to create 1 full-time equivalent job for under $35,000 of grant funds being requested. So for every $34,999 the city requests, at least 1 permanent new job has to be created at that facility. And they are a partner in your application. And it is for public infrastructure groups. Water lines, sewer lines, gas lines, streets, those types, electrical, running 3-phase power, those type of things. And in that category, you can actually apply for 1 year as long as all your other grants are current and not behind a schedule. In the packet that I handed out that you got in front of you, there's also, I talked about extremely low income individuals, very low income individuals, and low income. Extremely low income is 30% of the median income for the county. Very low is 50% of median income, and then low income is 80% of median. And you have that spreadsheet based upon household size. And again, for a neighborhood revitalization category, there's points up to 30% of your beneficiaries being extremely low income and 70% being low income. In order to apply in the commercial category, you have to be in excess of 51% citywide low income. And Carrabelle is actually 56.3% by census. So you're eligible in the commercial category if that's where you want to go. There are leverage points for every $30,000 you commit to put in after you're funded. If you're successful, you get a point up to 25 points. And again, it is a competition. So the more points, the better chance you have of getting funded. And those funds will be spent after the application is awarded the contract and after we complete the environmental review, and it would be typically coordinated as part of the project. In the neighborhood revitalization category and the commercial revitalization category, there's an extra 100 points in the competition if you commit shovel-ready projects. In other words, you're ready to go to bid, the plans are there, the specs are there, you've applied for your permits, and what you spend or pay the engineer or the architect to get you to the point of being shovel-ready, even if you get funded, is not reimbursable. So you're putting that money out, you're not going to see it come back, even if you're successful. So your commitment to the project on the front end is the preparation of plans and specs. On the back end is a match of at least $25,000. You have primary activities, which you must do all of in the application, and you have unmet need. Primary activities, even if your bids come in $100,000 over budget, you can't go back to DEO and say, gosh, we overestimated, let us cut it back. They go, no, this is your competition, this is your project. You either live or die by the project or turn the money back in. So you need to make sure that your primary activities are such that you're really comfortable you're going to be able to get under budget when you receive bids, which is a year after you put the application in, so you have to look a year in the future. The unmet need are activities that if you have money left after you do your primaries, you can move into the primary. But if that requires additional engineering, again, that's your responsibility. The grant will pay for any of that. The grant does allow to about $35,000 for bidding and inspection services for an engineer. So that's basically that portion of it. And the process is, you appointed the Citizens Advisory Task Force at your last meeting. They met earlier this evening. We're holding the first public hearing this evening, and I'm going to follow that up with a fair housing workshop. After this first public hearing, if you so desire, we would ask that you authorize staff to work with the engineer and ourselves to develop the application. And then we'll come back with the second public hearing where we'll actually go over the details of the project. The application due date has not been set. The process is DEO at some point, which has been next week for the last 3 weeks, is going to announce the opening of the cycle a month later. So basically they'll announce it, it'll open 30 days later, and then 45 days after the opening, applications will begin. So a total of about 75 days after the announcement. We anticipate that's going to put us into late April at this point. So that is the process. Let me finish up the presentation by asking if anybody has any questions.
Does anyone have questions? And this is, I believe, about the third time you've given us this presentation in the past year.
Yeah, I think last time we came, it was the previous cycle.
Yes.
So this is fiscal year 2015 funds. So when you look at the ad, it says 15, you say, God, I don't even know what year it is. No, we do know what year it is, but these are 15 funds, federal funds. And that's the reason it's in there that way.
Does anyone have questions? Commissioner Allen, do you have any questions?
None at this time.
Okay.
None.
Okay.
And the next step then will be to open up to public comment, that people bring forward any projects they would like to have you consider.
Okay. And would anyone like to speak now on any projects that you might like us to consider in this application? Is there any public comment? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Is there any public comment? Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll ask the city engineer to go over the project staff would like you to consider.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is a narrative that was prepared for a project that the city had contemplated. Earlier today, there was a meeting of a citizens board, and this is a project that was discussed and brought forward by them. So forgive me if I just read from this for the benefit of the commission and the audience. The city of Carrabelle is contemplating applying for funding assistance for a project in the CDBG commercial revitalization category. Project is currently contemplated, consists of roadway improvements and streetscape improvements on Avenue B between 11th Street and 3rd Street, and selected side roads connecting to US 98 from Avenue B. Avenue B is one street removed from the main roadway through the city of Carrabelle. The roadway improvements will support existing commercial businesses with frontage on both US 98 and Avenue B. The roadway improvements include construction of new curb and gutter, drainage improvements, side road and driveway, radius return improvements, and pavement rehabilitation. These improvements will provide much needed functionality to support delivery and access. Streetscape improvements include new sidewalks and ADA compliant curb cut ramps, new and updated roadway signing and lighting. Streetscape improvements will provide aesthetic improvements to enhance existing commercial uses and encourage new commercial uses along the corridor. And that's the project that is currently contemplated. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
We brought this up briefly, the city administrator acting as CRA director at our CRA meeting. And we would like for you to present this to the CRA, I'm requesting as well. And we have discussed this briefly at our last meeting to possibly partner, the CRA partner with this CDBG grant opportunity as we partnered with the Water Management District grant on Marine Street. So if you could present that to the board at our February 16th meeting, and that's going to be in the evening. We're changing the time of that. 6 o'clock is a workshop, then I guess it would probably be about 6:45 or 7 would be the meeting.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
and then funding, would come from there as well, if they agree with it. So, are there any questions?
So this would be worked in with the CRA,
Yes.
but it also extends outside the CRA district?
No, it does not. This does not extend outside the CRA district.
Okay.
This is totally completely within the CRA
That's
district.
correct.
Yes,
That's correct.
totally completely within. And it's common to leverage CRA funds with grants like this. It's a good opportunity. So, is there any other question about the project? Any questions? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If the board is, wants to move ahead, we request a motion and to authorize us to work with the engineer and staff to develop the application. And again, it will come back to you as a full application at a second public hearing before it's submitted to the state for your review and approval.
All right then, may I have a motion then to authorize staff to prepare an application then for this community development block grant?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis to authorize the preparation of the application. Do we have a motion, a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and is there any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries, and that was Commissioner Mathis and Commissioner Walden.
And just for the record, there was a mention that the citizens group did recommend this project.
Okay, thank you so much, and we appreciate them coming and attending that meeting and listening to your presentation.
Moving on, the next item is the Fair Housing Workshop. Is that going to be part of the same meeting, or do you want to adjourn the public hearing and go into the Fair Housing Workshop?
I don't know what the...
It's up to you, it's whatever your procedure is.
Well,
In other words, the Fair Housing Workshop is the next item. Can that come under the same meeting, or do you want to adjourn the public hearing and then go into the Fair Housing Workshop?
it is a workshop.
No vote
Workshop, are we in the meeting?
We were just in a public hearing.
Okay, public hearing, and then just have to adjourn the public hearing, enter the workshop.
Okay, so, all right, may I have a motion to adjourn this CDBG first public hearing?
I'll motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Allen, may I have a second? Okay, and we have a second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, then we want to now open up the Fair Housing Workshop for the city of Carrabelle on Thursday, February 4th, 2016.
Okay, and understand that while you're not looking at applying for funding for fair housing, one of HUD's priorities is promoting fair housing. So if you're asking for HUD's money, you also have to get into the fair housing advocacy business. And if you're funded, they'll also require under your contract with DEO that quarterly you do at least one fair housing activity to promote fair housing as part of your contract on the CDBG grant. The Fair Housing Act, which is this is the federal act we're talking about now, was first put in place in 1968, it was amended in 1988, and it was amended again in 1995. And the amendments added additional categories. So the Federal Fair Housing Act, as it currently is written, does not allow discrimination in the area of race, color, religion, national origin, someone's sex, the familial status. In other words, if there's a family with children and it's not an elderly complex, you cannot deny housing because they have children, or disability. So you can't deny housing to someone because they're physically or mentally disabled. Fair housing is a right of every person to obtain the housing of their choice without it being limited by their protected classes. And you have this packet in front of you, and if anybody in the audience would like it after the fact, staff has both the packet and the city's fair housing ordinance, if you request to provide it to you. Any single-family house sold or rented by a private individual, provided such owner does not own more than 3 single-family homes at one time, and provided the house is sold or rented without the use of a real estate broker and without the publication, posting, or mailing of a discriminatory advertisement or notice, buildings of 4 or more or less units where the owner lives in one of the units, and it's non-commercial housing operated by religious organizations and private clubs that limit occupancy solely to members as long as membership does not depend on race, or there are qualified senior communities. All of those are exempt from the Act. So the things I just described, those type of businesses, if you have 3 units or less and you're just renting those, and that's your only real estate occupation, if you will, or real estate advocacy, then those are exempt from the Act. And what conduct is prohibited? No one may take any of the following actions based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin. You cannot refuse to sell or rent a dwelling, refuse to negotiate for the sale or rental of a dwelling, to otherwise make a dwelling unavailable, or misrepresent that a dwelling is not available for inspection, sale, or rental, to offer different terms, conditions, or privileges of a sale or rental, to make, print, or publish discriminatory statements, notice of advertising, to steer an individual to a particular neighborhood or section of the community, to induce a person to sell or rent, or stating that a person of a different protected class are moving into the neighborhood, which is called blockbusting. I think everybody's familiar with that. Or fail to make reasonable accommodations or modifications for a disabled person. So all those things fall under fair housing. What condition is prohibited, this is continued, is to deny a person access to multiple listing service, real estate brokers organizations, or other services, to retaliate against a person because they filed a discrimination complaint, to coerce, intimidate, threaten, or interfere with any person seeking to enjoy any right protection under the Fair Housing Act. In the packet, there's directions on how to file a written complaint. They must be in writing. You can file it at the federal level, the state level, or locally. The addresses to file that are in the packet. At both the federal level and the state level, and we would file with the council if it was a local discrimination complaint. And the city would review the complaint. We had 45 days to review it. If they felt it was a legitimate complaint, could turn it over to the state attorney's office for them to investigate it. And again, there's a process that you go through at the federal level when your complaint is filed, and I'm not going to go into that in detail, but I'll open it. But again, it's in the packet. If anybody would like to, they're available. And I'll be able to answer any questions anybody has, either on the podium or in the audience, concerning fair housing.
Okay, are there any questions from Mr. Fox from the commissioners? Are there any questions from the public regarding fair housing to Mr. Fred Fox?
Thank you.
Okay, and all right then, we'll need to adjourn this workshop as well. But I do want to ask the clerk to make sure that Commissioner Massey has this in her mailbox, these two pamphlets that were passed out, and also the description of the revitalization project that was suggested and that we're moving forward on. Thank you so much. Then may we have adjournment? Can I have a motion to adjourn this workshop, please?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, and a motion by Commissioner Allen, and may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mathis. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then the motion carries. Thank you. And now we will reopen the regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission, and we'll start back up under old business. Item 1, discussion and possible action concerning member appointments to the Planning and Zoning Board. Have we had any additional interest sent in? Okay, nothing. And then do any of the commissioners have someone that they would like to nominate for appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board? We have 5 members at this time, right?
Right, we still need 2.
Could use 2 more. We have enough for a quorum at this point?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right. Is anyone interested? Okay. Then we will just table this item and just let the public know that we would like to have 2 more members to our Planning and Zoning Board. If anyone happens to know of someone interested, please let the staff know. I guess we're interested in someone that's a resident of the city. And then so now we'll move to item 2, discussion and possible action regarding relocation of City Hall. I requested this on the agenda. We need to have some sort of methodology of this if we're going to move forward on it. We need to understand where we sit right now, what are our responsibilities now, what are our responsibilities going to be in the future, and just review a few questions. And I'll just go ahead and review or just bring out the points that I have of concern, and maybe that will stimulate some discussion. I'm sure this will be on the agenda several times before a final decision is made. And so first I would say that Miranda, our finance clerk, did prepare, and everyone has one, a sheet of operational costs for City Hall over the past 5 years. You have that? Okay. And the average on that, we're spending for utilities here at City Hall. It's about a 60,000 square foot building. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Looks like about the average is about $67,000 a year, $67.90 on utilities. And for 2011, she's got all the power bills, the water bills, air conditioning maintenance, that I've reported on that, it's $800 a month just to maintain, and then extra if anything is wrong. Propane, the first year was $87,800, the second year, but they did do some major repairs to the air conditioning system on the first year, in 11. 12, the utility expenses were $55,000, in 2013, $53,000, in 2014, $71,000, and in 2015, $68,000. So she has, for all 5 years, $335,451. So that's just to kind of, let y'all know what we're spending here just on utility costs. We need to know exactly, all board members need to know exactly what buildings and what land is actually owned by the city of Carrabelle, and then what is on lease from the school board to the city of Carrabelle. And if we could have the attorney report to us back at our next discussion on this topic, exactly what is owned by the city of Carrabelle. Then we need to know what are our obligations and responsibilities to the school board, because we did receive the building in receivership from the school board. What are our responsibilities to the museum, Camp Warden Johnston, to the Nest, or any other nonprofit organizations that use this facility, and if the attorney could report to us on that, if that's all right with the board members. Okay. We need to come to some idea of what type of square footage are we going to, or is the staff going to need? How many offices? I know that it's been recommended that the police department and city hall remain under one roof, that it's less expensive to operate that way. So, we're going to need rooms for police department and an evidence room. They need an evidence room, and I think maybe Chief Kincaid showed me the evidence room one time. I think he expressed it was kind of small. Maybe you might use a little more square footage there, but a secure evidence room. We need a big meeting room. Maybe it doesn't need to be exactly this big, but a big meeting room, and then a couple of breakout meeting rooms, and certainly we're going to have parking. What are our relocation site options? Where could the city hall relocate to? Would the city hall relocate? What structure? What are our options for structures? Maybe I know we will have to involve engineering and architect on that eventually. And how will a project like this be funded? And what will be the outcome of this building? How will it be removed? Will it just be boarded up? And that's something that the attorney could help us with. How are we going to find out what would happen with this building here? How will we dispose of it? That's going to be a cost. So that's all I have at this point. But does anyone else have any comments? Is there anything you'd like to direct the staff or the attorney to investigate?
I think you pretty well covered it. I'm really excited about the possibility of using the spray field, not the spray field, but the old water plant field over Allen Park. So that's close, central town, but that's something that you probably have other things that you can get.
No, well, the city does not own any other property in the city limits. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So we own that.
Yes, that's certainly an option, to save money for certain. Is there any other discussion? If you think of something, bring it up to staff. Let them know what's on your mind so we can discuss it. So that do we even want to relocate?
Ma'am, this place is going to, in the future, cost us a fortune to keep it running. We gotta do something, but this is a start. I mean, we can't keep paying these kind of utility bills. Needs a roof, needs an air conditioning system, talking about $500,000 right there.
Well, maybe more. I think our roof was bid at, we got 4 bids, $400,000, $500,000, and $700,000 just for the roof. So, and then I don't know what our air conditioning system. So we've got to make something.
We need the public to be in on discussing this.
Yes, they do.
They the guys put the bill here, taxpayers.
That's why we're bringing it out to the public, because if we have to go out for a loan, we may have to do that. The city, our finances aren't quite there to put the bill up front, to pay cash up front. But certainly a loan could be paid off with these type of utility bills. I don't know how we would put the bill on financing a roof and air conditioning. We would have to most likely, get a loan for that. Once you put a new roof and air conditioning, you're still with this big building that doesn't have energy efficient windows and plumbing. Actually, how long was the toilets were stopped up for how long here now? The past 2 weeks?
Very constipated.
Yes, they were constipated for 2 weeks, as Commissioner Allen says, the toilets were, and they worked.
Then you come in and the girls are sitting there with space heaters in the office and got, it's just.
But the Water Sewer Department worked for about 2 weeks on our plumbing here. Something is either the outbound sewer is being crushed. The outbound sewer line is what the sewer department fellows tell me. This building is settled, and in a lot of areas the wastewater just won't flow out. So, is there any more discussion on this item? If not, do we need a motion to direct the city attorney to follow up with these questions that I've asked? Do we need a motion for that?
If you would.
Okay.
I'll move to do it.
Okay, so.
Or the attorney to look into it.
All right, all the questions that I directed to him, okay. So we have a motion then to direct the attorney to check into our obligations and responsibilities and let us know exactly what we own and how we can possibly move forward. All right, now motion by Mr. Allen, Commissioner Allen, do we have a second? Okay, and then we have a second by Commissioner Walden. Are all in favor? Excuse me. Any more discussion?
I suggest that you real estate people get busy and find us something.
Cheap.
The museum is gonna move in a few months.
Yeah, something got to do.
They're gonna build their own building.
I will say on that note, thank you for reminding me, Mr. Newton, and Mr. Horvath is here. He knows more about it than any of us on the relocation of the museum. Would you like to speak to that?
I'll make it short and sweet.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We met with the legislature, tried to get funding. They all reminded us of the budget that the governor has a budget reduction going on. That's kind of iffy. We're hoping to start breaking ground in 2 months of the new building with money from the TDC, new money that we have. So hopefully by Thanksgiving, we should have a building up and running, but that's depending on the funding right now. So that's pretty much all I have.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, so that was any more discussion? Okay, now I'll call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Okay, thank you, the motion carries. Okay, then we'll move on to new business. Item 1, discussion and possible action concerning closing the alley behind the old mini mall on block 5110. This is on Highway 98.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mayor La Paz. We have this under contract, and when we did a survey, we realized that there's an alley running between, in the building. We have a copy of it there. So the new owners are asking for you to abandon that alley with them, for them, because if something happens to this building and it tears down, then he's gonna be up with the issue of rebuilding with this alley in between.
Well, does anyone have any more questions for Ms. Bowden regarding this?
Yes, ma'am, who's your clients? They plan on putting businesses there?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I had talked to the city about purchasing this before for a city hall, but he is gonna renovate this whole building, put a new roof, renovate and rent out the shops. There's 9 spaces altogether. One whole side, which used to be a restaurant game room, could have a restaurant there, or, you know, city hall maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's big enough, but his intentions are revamping it, getting it ready, and I already have 3 prospects that are looking for places to rent to go in there. He's also purchased the warehouse and the lot in front of it. His plans for that are to make it a boat storage, an indoor boat storage, and the lot in front to a big fence, secure around it, so people who come down, instead of taking their boats back and forth from Tallahassee, can have another place to store their boat. And the alley between the warehouse and the lot has already been abandoned. It was abandoned back. And why this one was not, and how this building was built on it, I have no idea.
And that we don't know either.
Yes.
So, okay. the
I just know
clerk-
that we've always had one issue there, and that's, it has 1 water meter.
Yes.
So that needs to be addressed, you know, because it's just the 1 meter running the whole building.
Right.
And that's difficult for several businesses to operate on one meter. So do you think that they would be able to remedy that situation, or you don't know how they're going?
The way that we had talked about doing it is that if he rents the units out individually, they will come with water. They will not have he will pay the water bill. That will be included in
Okay.
their
Well, and that's kind of my point. For example, the places across the bridge there is 1 meter, but we do charge a minimum bill for each office that's in there. So, and he has to understand that if he has 4 businesses in there, he's gonna get a minimum bill
Correct.
4 times.
Yes,
For
and that will be added to their rent, and he will pay that.
For base
And
rates.
then the usage would be divided
Right.
however he wants to do it. I have the map here if anybody wants to look at it.
How far does the alley run down between his property? Does it go all the way down to another street?
Did I understand it correct that both ends of the alley is already closed?
Yes, ma'am.
No, that's the block over. This alley's closed, the boatyard that you're speaking of. And then this part of these 2 alleys are closed, and then this alley's closed. This is one.
Ends of
The ends of these 2, but that's where the, quick lube is. That's the block, the next block over.
Okay, so show us Fifth Street.
This street's here.
Okay,
This is where the quick lube is.
okay.
This is the one she's talking about here.
So, where the old school is, the Shanghai and all, none of that is closed either?
No,
Okay,
no.
so. I printed out a print from the online appraisers, and so here's Fifth Street, and then here's this property, and then this property, and then the property in question, and then this property is where the warehouse and the old boat
That's the
storage.
church there, correct?
Yes, sir. That is the church, and then, so where the church and the metal building, that is already closed, is that correct?
Yes,
Right here. Okay. Fifth Street is right here. This one's open. This one is open. This one is open, and then this one has already been closed.
It'll bring some business, I don't have no problem with closing.
It's not an alley we maintain anyway, it's gonna separate his business if we keep it, basically.
Yeah, actually, the building is built on part of the alley. The
Yeah.
only spaces where parking is anyway.
I don't see a problem with it.
It could actually be almost considered grandfathered in, I mean, with the building on top of the alley.
Well, during the title work, we did all the research we could do to find out anywhere where it had been abandoned and we just didn't know, or if it was grandfathered. And this is gonna be an exception to the title, and that's why we need it cleared up.
This is not the other property, just this one?
Just, yes, I'm just representing this one.
But you're asking for the whole?
No,
You just want this portion?
his portion. Now, the owner who bought the other, which he is cleaning up, I don't know if y'all have noticed him been by there lately, that had sold and he is cleaning that up, so it may be advantage to him, but I'm not here for that
Mr.
issue.
Butler, you want the other end, don't you?
So, this is Mr. Butler, well, Butler
Family.
Properties, Butler Properties here, right here. Well, do we want to move forward? Are we ready to make a motion on this? Would someone like to make a motion on possibly approving this, or?
Actually, what we're gonna need to do, what we'll have to do is bring it back before the board with a proper either resolution or ordinance that will memorialize this vacating of it for the title company.
They do need a motion to give us direction.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, certainly would need a motion to direct staff to draft up the resolution.
Okay,
I move to do that.
all right,
Let the staff make the drop a resolution to get the information we
all
need.
right.
If you
Thank you.
could-
And this is just for the portion of these,
Yeah, that is,
Just as you see in this exhibit right here.
Gina, since you all had Thurman, there it is a legal description for that portion of the alley. If you get that from Thurman,
Okay.
that'd be helpful. I mean, I know, we know it runs from 7th Street to, you can do it, and that'll go in our ordinance or resolution on that
Okay.
resolution.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Allen to direct staff to draft a resolution regarding memorializing this alleyway here that we just discussed. May I have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any more discussion?
Madam, if you're gonna be dealing with this with the one next door in the future, is that what gentleman was
We
saying?
don't know that.
Well, do it all, get it over with.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
How we got to this point is because I believe Ivandale, Maine built a building that's sitting on an easement. Is that correct? What year did he do that in? 1998 or?
the one property was considered the old colored school.
If it goes through that, that was built in the 40s during World War II. Is that built over part of it? Okay. And the part, is it going beyond to the north, further beyond that? I mean, any easement behind that will be able to, that's just, but what I was really coming up to say is the city had already set a precedent on that when Big Big Machine, which is there next to the old place, the Neal property, they wanted to close the alley behind there to expand their business. And the city did not, maybe even the adjacent property owners who had agreed to it did not agree to that. and they consequently moved into the county property over the Buckeye side.
So where are you speaking now, the alley behind?
Yeah, where the flower, there's a building back there with a
That
brick.
is, the portion of that alley's closed.
Yeah, but I'm just saying at the time, as we make decisions and we have all new people here, I just thought I would bring up, if you have any reservations about closing a alleyway, and particularly when it's in a business area. We made the mistake once with Big Ben Machine. They moved out and we lost all that tax revenue when they moved out to Buckeye and had a bigger space. When Superior Bank was moving into town, they bought the whole city block, and they said their plan was going to put a bank on that whole section where Fisherman's Wife and the county annex is. And the city government decided that if someone owned an entire block and they would like to abandon that alleyway so they could fully develop it, that would be something that, that set a precedent when it did that. So in business sense, if it's commercial property and if nobody needs it for emergency, it would support business to abandon it.
And the lots are so small, the individual lots are small.
And the lots were done for residential. We've gone back and redone lots to make them commercial on 98, the same way going up Tallahassee Street, because we hope to have more business.
Thank you. So we have the motion by Commissioner Allen, second by Commissioner Walden, and we were in discussion. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then the motion carries to direct staff to develop a resolution. Thank you. All right, then we're going to move forward to item 2 under new business. Discussion and possible action regarding an fishing tournament along Marine Street. They are requesting to rope off 3 to 4 parking places on Marine Street for a food truck setup, and then rope off an area within 50 feet of the pavilion. And then they're requesting a waiver of the city's prohibition of outdoor alcohol consumption for beer and wine for members and guests within that zone.
Make a motion to approve.
I don't like the idea of giving permission for alcohol consumption. If you do it for one group, you gotta do it for everybody.
Okay, all right. Hold on just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, just a moment. We have a motion by Commissioner Mathis to approve. We would have to have a second
I'll
at this
make the
point.
motion in second for the
Okay.
discussion.
All right, so now we have a motion by Mathis and a second by Commissioner Allen for discussion. So now let's have discussion. Commissioner Walden, please.
Well, once you get one group permission to consume alcohol, what happens when you're gonna tell all these other people they can't have their alcohol, then we're gonna have a problem. That's my opinion.
Okay. And you would you like to weigh in on this?
Well, this, I understand in reading the document here, and you could address that, the safety guards on it. And it's non sequitur that somebody else would have to follow that. You're talking about a slippery slope. If we do this, then it's going to slip on into something else. I read the document, the letter, and I'd like Mr. Chapman to take a look at that and maybe address those concerns, if that's all right.
Yes, please.
And we do allow 2 or 3 day alcohol permits, but normally they're on private property.
Thank you, Mayor La Paz and Commissioners. I'm Stan Chapman. I'm from the immediate past president of the Tallahassee Bar Association. I am the current event chair of the Tallahassee Bar Association. I have with me tonight Luke Newman, and this idea of a fishing tournament for our members and their families is really Luke's brainchild. So Luke can explain what he had in mind for the tournament itself. I'd like to tell you a little bit about why we're here before you tonight. The Tallahassee Bar is, first of all, serves the entire 2nd Judicial Circuit. We are the largest voluntary bar association in the circuit. We have 700 members plus, lawyers primarily. We have also law student affiliates and paralegal affiliate members. We try each year to have several events, and we've had events as far east as Jefferson County. We're looking to do an event over on the west side of the circuit. Most of our members who are also fishermen operate their vessels primarily out of St. Mark's. Now, for those of you, and I think I recognize a few faces, Commissioner Allen for one, you probably know me more around here as Beth's husband, because my wife, Beth Placivita, was the consultant that did y'all's historical resources survey for Carrabelle a few years ago, and have worked with Ms. Allen to get some grant funding for historic preservation here. You know, we love coming down here. We've got to love the community. And when I heard fishing tournament, I thought back to some of the history we dug up, some of which Tamara's already mentioned about the thriving port you had here. But what I recalled was Minnie Pearl on the Grand Ole Opry going out nationwide talking about what a great fishing community this was, and in the heyday of the fishing trips and all that here. So we recommended to the Tallahassee Bar, if we're going to have a fishing event, it should be in Carrabelle, it should be out of Carrabelle, and this is an opportunity, I think, for the community to have a bunch of folks with boats out of Leon County maybe fishing out of here more instead of St. Mark's. And I heard prior speaker talking about a boat yard or facility to store boats. Well, you know, this is an opportunity to get people here that may not be familiar with Carrabelle as I am and as Beth is. So that's what got us here. What got me before you folks is taking this idea of what we envisioned as a family-oriented fishing tournament for our members and their guests, bringing these folks here to enjoy the community that we enjoy. And again, Luke can tell you more about the logistics of what we had in mind, but we wanted to do this the right way. And at our regular meetings of the Tallahassee Bar, what we normally do is we have dinner first. This is not just a drinking thing we're talking about here, right? Or it's not just a fishing weigh-in thing. We usually have dinner. We usually give our members a drink ticket that they can get beer or wine to have with their dinner. You know, we usually have a setup where if somebody wants to purchase an additional beer or wine, they can. And what we have envisioned here is doing that, keeping it low key, keeping it roped off, keeping it out of the street, keeping it out of downtown. If we have music at all, which is, we haven't decided yet, it'll probably be somebody with a folk guitar. But food and beverage, alcoholic and non-alcoholic is what we had in mind. Commissioner Allen expressed some concern about that same slippery slope that he mentioned, and this not getting out of hand and setting precedents for all, and I understand that. Tallahassee Bar Association used to have a bad reputation years ago of being an old white man's drinking club in Tallahassee, and we worked very hard to shake that image.
That's not how it's going to be called the Bar Association, though, is it?
No. Sometimes non-lawyers, I tell this to, they laugh. But we're the only profession in the state that has to swear an oath to abstain from offensive personality. Nobody else has to do that but us. And I get a laugh because plenty of people know some offensive lawyers in their past somewhere. But I assure you, we take our professionalism and our reputation in the public very seriously. This is not going to be a rowdy event. It is authorized, the permit I'm asking for is authorized under section 10-2E of your Code of Ordinances. It is, and it's under that, pursuant to that provision, we're specifically asking for a permit. I would point out, as your attorney I'm sure will confirm, that in order to give us the permit we're asking for, to do this event that we're talking about, as far as the alcohol part of it, then y'all would have to make a finding that this would not constitute a nuisance to any residential area. That's in your ordinance. And I would point out and ask you to take notice of the fact that over where we're talking about doing this, right adjacent in and adjacent to that pavilion, there is no adjacent residential zoning. It's commercial along the other side of the street. So I think we satisfy that criteria that you can make that finding without any problem. The other thing we were asking for is to request, and I think you've got authorization under section 66-1B of your ordinance, to request that the police department put some cones out to block off 3 or 4 parking places for the use of the Tallahassee Bar for this event. And we thought we might have a caterer park a truck or something there, and there may be somebody coming and going, taking things that might need a parking place. And we would ask that that we have permission to rope off a few parking places on the east side of Marine Street, just opposite that pavilion, or on the pavilion side if that's preferable. But these are our specific requests, and again, I think that we're going to be a real good event. We hope to do it annually, and I think passing these 2 provisions, if we can give these permissions, that will greatly enhance our ability back in Tallahassee to convince everybody to keep coming back here for the event. Probably expect, if anybody's wondering about numbers, about 50 to 100 people for the check-in and a picnic-style dinner. And again, we intend it to be a family event. And Luke can talk about some of the things we're doing that's a little different from your sea quarters event to encourage that. So Luke.
Thank you so much. I just want to reiterate that, well, not reiterate, I want to say I've been a part of many Tallahassee Bar Association or TVA events, and that I want to assure members of the commission these are tame events. I also want to say that we've been told by staff at the organization that they want the weigh-in to be at 3 p.m. So we're not talking about something that's going to drag into probably even dark. And we're going to have a tournament, a members tournament. We're going to have divisions, a non-motor division, an inshore division, an offshore division. It's going to be catch, photo, and then submit your photos. We're going to have a point system to tally points to try and equal out people who have different equipment, with boats or what have you, that wouldn't have an unfair advantage. And we're going to have some special prizes. We're going to have a spot tournament on the redfish side, a youth prize for a youth who brings up it doesn't even have to be an animal or a fish, it's just the ugliest thing off the bottom. And I'm coming up with an equivalent to this spot tournament on the for the offshore people. And we're going to give away a few coolers, some trophies. We're not even going to do cash prizes. And so as far as fishing tournaments go, and I'll assure you, I've been part of some fishing tournament events that were not very well behaved. Certainly when I was younger. But I've been a part of this group for a long time. It's a very tame group. It's going to be a bunch of real estate lawyers having a couple of beers and eating barbecue. I also want to say that our food vendor that we had talked about going with, and I've spoken to him personally, is a Carrabelle resident, and I think he brings. I don't know if he regularly caters out of his property. It's in Carrabelle. It's on the other side of the river, but I know that he owns a home here as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
And we'd be glad to answer any questions, but what we're basically looking for, obviously, is a positive vote on the motion before you to approve these 2 requests.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Law enforcement, are we gonna need additional law enforcement for this? The city got it covered overtime for our police officers?
As I said, we're probably looking at no more than 50 to 100 people. You're not talking about any heavy drinking going on. I don't know that you'll normally require extra security for picnic type or family gatherings down at the pavilion, but you're likely to have members of law enforcement from Tallahassee and judges at this thing, very likely to have that. So I doubt we're going to have any additional demands on your city's law enforcement.
Chief Munnings would like to weigh in just a moment.
It'll be up to you if you want to require them to have law enforcement, but understaffed as we are right now, we're not going to be able to provide it. And y'all will be the one that have to pay for it. And it's usually $25 an hour.
If that is a condition of your approval, obviously the ordinance says you're free to condition or deny or set any parameters you want to make this work out for us both, so that this can be something we can do year in, year again.
Well, I certainly am glad that you had picked Carrabelle. and it's a good opportunity to bring new folks to the area. I tend to think along Commissioner Walden's point of view that this is going to be difficult once we allow alcohol, beer and wine at a public facility, at a park. This is actually a park facility, and we actually have no alcoholic beverages allowed posted at this facility. And our officers work hard to keep alcoholic beverages away from there. Now, if we allow it, how can we explain to the members of the public, the residents that use that, and other visitors that have used it years on end and not been allowed to partake in their alcoholic beverages? And how do we then tell people that want to have a birthday party over here at Sand Park, a birthday party at Tilly Miller, how do we tell them, no, you can't have alcoholic beverages? But the Tallahassee Bar Association was allowed to have alcoholic beverages. How do we do that?
I'll be glad to answer that. The ordinance and the permit that I'm requesting is very specific. The event that you're authorized to give this permit under, and this is nothing, it was couched in terms of a variance, but it's really a permit that's already authorized by your ordinance if you make the requisite findings. The ordinance itself says that the event must be an event of community-wide impact. All right, we're going to be bringing folks into this town through our event, encouraging them while they're waiting on us to come in with fish stories and fish pictures, to visit your businesses in downtown, to shop, do whatever while they're waiting for that. We're going to use this as an opportunity to truly market Carrabelle to our members. And it will absolutely, aside from the fact we got dock and shore fishing, which is going to be a community-wide activity, and you've got all of these waterways in the area being utilized. You've got a very broad community-based impact here that, respectfully, I doubt there's going to be many family reunions or birthday parties that are going to be able to click those boxes like we will be able to, that are in the ordinance itself. That and coupling it to a requirement that this be a with food type thing, it's not like, that's not going to open the door to people having booze parties down at the pavilion. So I think there's plenty of ground you have for distinguishing what we're applying for from somebody else coming along with a birthday party or a graduation party or a fraternity party or something like that. Have I addressed your concern?
Somewhat. Somewhat.
Thank you. Any other questions for either one of
I think you got
us?
a great idea for the fishing tournament. It's just how are we going to explain to the next group, you can't have alcohol, but this group could. That's the only problem I got. You gonna bring money into town, we appreciate that.
Respectfully, I think if they make their case that they fit under the ordinance, I think you should give them permission to. You know, I think that's the way the ordinance is written, to allow for this. We just want to be, we want to be there and we want to start this process.
It's going to be fair.
Sure, I hope that as well.
The only people in that area that would be participating would be the Bar Association, it would be the general public?
It would not be the general public, it would be our bar association, their family, and their kids.
We might let some sponsors pitch too. Some of the law-related business wants to sponsor, but by vast majority it's going to be members of the Florida Bar.
Our major sponsor is an outfit called LexisNexis that does the online libraries and that kind of thing. So I expect them, and there maybe a bank, either Tallahassee State or Centennial Bank will probably be a sponsor.
Have you considered soliciting renting a place like the boat club or sea quarters, or they both have spaces?
Right, that's what I was about to ask. Why are you wanting to use public facilities and not, you know, our sea quarters or Carrabelle Marina or the moorings, or, you know, you could across the way there from the pavilion is the fish camp or scallywags, and then down the road there, you know, we have Harry's Bar with the nice courtyard where you could have, you know, cocktails in there. You know, I'm not understanding, you're wanting to bring your own food and bring your own drink and use the public facility. I know that you say that there will be some shopping going on.
So candidly, it's because you got such a really nice facility down there. You know, and back in Tallahassee, we lobbied for grant funds for you, you know, with the, I mean, we want this facility used, and I think it's underutilized now, to tell you the truth, for this kind of.
I want to just say, I reached out to Carrabelle Boat Club, and I used to be a customer there years ago, and I was told they were not interested in hosting any more tournaments that weren't exclusive for their customers, their current customers. I've talked to another location, Sea Quarters as well, and what it came down to is we just really like that pavilion. It's got the parking there, it's got trailer parking there because it's close to the boat ramp right there. There's a fish cleaning station there. You don't compete with marina business. You're right on the water. You can access it by truck, you can access it by boat very easily. We really just like the facility.
And are you paying any lease to any rent to the city or anything like that? No, that's just being used as a public facility. You're just wanting to reserve it as a public.
All we've done is reserve it so far, but there again, if there is some condition you want to put on this use, that's up to you.
We don't charge for our use of our public facilities?
No, I think that was provided, it was funded with grant money.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Buck?
I didn't have anything to say about economic development. The understanding of why it's so reluctant, if I'm paraphrasing this wrong, y'all correct me, but if someone from the outside, which we do want you to come here, we want your business, we want your fellowship, but if you come in here and we give you a license to do that, then when a local person wants to come do it, for their good intentions, how can they say no? Because it's for the local community. So that's really and you deal in case law. Once you've done that, you've set a precedent. They can come in just like you're being persuasive, and they will put pressure here saying, well, why did you let people from Tallahassee come in here and do it? And we can say, well, they hired local people to do this and do that. They went shopping. But that doesn't matter to the population here because it was put here with grant money for recreational purposes. That being said, and if you like the area, why can't we do something on the parking area where the Wicked Willie's was?
Private.
The private property, we're talking about having sponsors, they have big tents. If you want to have the fishing piers for family and stuff to use the pavilion and use the other dock where the Coast Guard was, you can still have all those amenities. But the alcohol will be on private property.
And that's a good suggestion, Mr. Butler, I appreciate that. And your public restroom would still be there. The pavilion would still be there with picnic tables if you wanted to go over and to use the pavilion, but you could have your bar area on private property.
And who now owns Wicked Willie's? I know it's been closed for.
Jimmy Crowder.
Same as Sea Quarters.
Jimmy Crowder out of Tallahassee.
Okay, so has anybody rented that space? Does anybody know? Yeah.
And I don't know what the inside of it looks like there. Has anyone been in there recently where you set up for your fishy fashion show? How does that?
These is a cleaning.
Okay, that's a shame.
I don't think we want to be inside.
Just lease just the parking lot area.
The parking lot's private.
And so what you're suggesting is approving the park and park, but keeping the alcohol over there in that area?
Across the street off public land.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That we can do.
Well, we serve at your pleasure in this instance, so, you know.
I'm sure Mr. Crowder will lease you that piece of property for one day. It's closed for business. Your alcohol will be right across the street. It won't be on public land. It was an old bar anyway.
Yes, it was.
So what's the big deal?
Well, that may be a good compromise.
We have such a problem with people going down there drinking and our law enforcement's constantly running them off.
Yes.
How can we justify letting you guys go there and drink beer?
Again,
It's a major problem there.
I understand your dilemma.
We'd love to have you.
I understand your dilemma. I was trying to give you some ideas for how to
We
distinguish it and
That part
follow the
will be
ordinance.
fine for y'all.
We have business owners here who would love to have you here shopping their shops. The IGA would love you to come and get any little extras you need. And we want you to enjoy Carrabelle, but we have an obligation to the citizens as well.
And Mr. Crowder owns a bait and tackle, 3/4 that owns the bar. I'm sure he'd like to sell you the fuel and ice. It sounds like.
We have no doubt about that.
We're glad to have you, really.
Okay, thank you very much. And if so,
If we can take care of that alcohol across the street.
well, if I might ask them, if somebody would amend the motion before you to approve the parking issue, and then we can move forward to investigate the private area across the street for the other.
All right, so then we had a motion by, you.
Commissioner
pretty
I
much-
withdraw my motion.
He can't withdraw.
It was second.
We have a second
So
by
I
Commissioner.
think maybe we should all just go ahead and vote on that motion and then readdress it, make another motion to address the roping off of 3 to 4 parking spaces for their food vendor setup and roping off the pavilion area to have their private party. How does that sound?
The motion is?
Okay, so
Commissioner Massey made a motion to approve and seconded. We can call the vote and then come back and deal with the parking or conditional approval on the Wicked Willow's property. If you want to put it to bed. Now, if they are unsuccessful, then it's in leasing that property, then they would have to come back before us and figure something else out. But
So the
kind of put
motion
this
that
to
I
bed,
seconded
put
it,
this away.
Mr. Mathis said it would allow it, so.
Sorry, the motion on the floor is simply to allow it, period, to approve what's there.
To approve what, yes, what,
Here,
to
so-
approve this entire request.
Yeah, okay.
But if we don't want to approve the entire request, then we'll have to vote
That's
appropriate.
That's good, that's what
Okay, and then we'll,
Excuse me, I would ask that if it's a down vote on the entire thing, if we could at least get the parking resolved tonight. Because it's quite a haul for us to come down.
we'll readdress that shortly.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okie dokie. All right, so then the motion by Commissioner Mathis, second by Commissioner Allen. We've had our discussion. Is there any more discussion? Okay, then is there anyone in favor of this motion as is? Okay, those who oppose?
Hey.
Aye. Okay, so the motion does not carry as is, and all opposed.
Okay, now, certainly the mayor can explain, but we could have two different motions. You pick between them is one to simply approve the parking setup for the food truck, or to approve food truck and approval of the sale of alcohol on private property for the day of the tournament. And that way you all don't have to deal with it again, but that, if you want to deal with it again, of course, that's up to you all. Make that decision.
Okay, all right, the parking setup for the food truck and the rope off the pavilion area as well.
No, I'm sorry, what I'm, is,
Even if it's on private property.
you could make a motion to approve one, or make a motion to approve number one, and the sale of alcohol in the Wicked Willow's parking lot, on private property.
For that one day event.
For that one day event.
And we do that quite often.
Yeah, we do it for, almost all the little festivals on there. It's in quarters.
Well, I'll move for that then and see how that goes.
Well, let's see, I think I would like, I would suggest that we have two separate motions. One to approve their parking proposal and roping off of the pavilion for their event. And then another motion to either, to address the sale of alcohol, a one-day permit on private property.
And just to clarify, you still want the roped off pavilion?
Yes.
Got it, okay. Yep. You got it right.
If you don't like that, what would you like?
No, I'm just trying to get it straight in my head.
Well, I go with two, and one will serve the purpose.
Okay, all right. All right then.
I'll second his motion.
All right, now what was your motion, Commissioner Allen?
Both.
I don't
We
think
approve the
Commissioner.
roping off of the parking area.
Okay,
The roping off the parking lot, roping off the pavilion.
Oh, he didn't include you didn't include the drinking on private property?
Well, we could still put that too, yes.
okay, all right.
So roping off the parking spaces for the food truck, roping off the pavilion, and sale of alcohol on the Wicked Willie's parking lot, private property the day of the tournament.
And of course, that's pending approval from Crowder.
Yep. If they cannot get that approval, they'll have to bring us a different application.
If we can't get that.
Only approving at that location on that day.
Okay, so, do you have that, Keisha?
I do.
All right, so that is a, motion by, Commissioner Allen to include those 3 items. And then do we have a second?
I second that
Okay, then
motion.
there's a second by Commissioner Mathis. Is there any more discussion? I would like to thank Mr. Butler for his suggestion. We appreciate that very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. And if you need me to go with you to, to seek orders, to assist with any request, I'll be glad to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do think that, that there needs to be some finding on the record that that particular permit would not affect or be a nuisance to adjacent private or residential development, as I read your ordinance, for it to be valid.
Did you hear that?
I do. We have our consent
Pull
to
a
use.
permit from
Are you giving her, sorry, are you selling it, or you are selling alcohol, or is it simply provided for everybody?
What we envisioned is we usually give like a single drink ticket to have a beer or a glass of wine with our dinners. And then if somebody wants an additional beer or wine, they can purchase it, and that money just goes to cover costs of the event.
Who's selling it?
The Tallahassee Bar Association.
Okay.
But do y'all have a
Selling
vending
alcohol.
truck?
What we would do is we would hire a bartender that's licensed and has all the qualifications to do that.
Okay, like a wedding.
Yep. And obviously, we had discussion prior to the down vote, but obviously, those are, the findings are the discussion that the Wicked Willie's parking lot is, just as you said, is the former site of a bar. It's not within 500 feet of a church, a school, that sort of thing. Under the alcohol ordinance, where you're selling and consuming on site, yeah, there's no, we certainly discussed that, and
Meets the criteria.
meets the
Yes,
criteria.
sir. All right then.
Before our guests leave, if Ms. Beth will be coming down, and if the Historical Society would avail itself to having tours for your family members that are coming, I'm sure that Camp Gordon Johnson can also assist in sweetening that.
I fully intend to get Beth to give guided tours of Carrabelle during this event if I can twist her arm. But she will probably turn me down because she loves to fish, and my experience is she always catches the biggest one, no matter how many times I've tried.
We thank you for choosing Carrabelle, and we look forward to seeing y'all in the future.
Thank
you very much. Thank you. Good evening. All right, then we'll move on to item 3. Under new business, appoint an airport aviation advisory board. We've had 6 folks offer up, send in their interest in being on the airport advisory board. And we said we would appoint 3 to 5, and we have 6 folks interested. The city attorney explained that each one of us would nominate, and it's unfortunate we are missing one commissioner this evening, but how will we handle that?
You can simply, we have 6, What I recommend is each of you nominate somebody, we'll vote on those, and then as to the one additional member, have some discussion about it and have someone nominate. And anybody can just, when I say any of the commissioners, and then, and Madam Mayor can too, nominate the fifth person, and we'll have a motion to vote on that.
Okay, so then can we move forward on this?
I
Okay.
have just a question or two before we get into that. The ad in the paper said, experience would be, let's see, expertise in aviation and airport operations. My opinion of that is licensed pilots. Is there any question about that? But would not the board, I know my feeling is that the board members of this should be licensed pilots. That would give them the expertise that's needed for the job.
That can form a basis for your nomination as well as.
Yeah, that would be.
Now, what about if they were previously licensed?
Don't.
With them to get into why they're not now, if they're not.
I don't think it's a requirement. I mean, I think you can obviously personally feel that that is important, and that goes into why someone should not serve on the advisory board, but unless it's made one of the criteria up or down, I don't know that we can exclude anybody on that basis, but certainly personally, you can consider that.
Is there anything else, Commissioner?
No, that's about it. I guess there's some other things that will probably come up when we get into it, but on that basis then, I would like to go ahead and nominate the developing gentleman from Alligator Point, Mr. Bert Bolt.
Bert Bolt?
And Commissioner, you can also make a motion to place him on the board. Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. We can do a that's a good idea. It's just everybody throw out your nomination, and if we want to vote on them as a slate, that's fine too. First vote, okay. Madam Mayor?
Well,
List all of them.
okay, here, I have Mr. Bert Bolt, which has been, and I printed this off of the emails that were sent. That's okay. He's been nominated, Mr. George Mayer, Mr. Gregory Newman, Mr. James Bryan, and Mr. Tim Sullivan, and then Mr. Bert Worthy. Bert Worthy, right?
I nominate Bert Worthy.
All right, sir. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Let me read this just a second.
All right. Mayor, did you want to?
Mr. James Bryant.
All right.
James Bryan?
You got Bert, Bull, Bert, Bert.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Tim Sullivan. Okay, so we have one opening.
All right. One opening, two people. Certainly everybody can throw in the fifth name.
I don't personally know none of these people. Mr. Allen?
Yes,
Now, Mr. George Mayer's here in the,
Could I withdraw my name, please? I'd be happy to assist the folks, but I just soon go along as a...
to attend the public meetings and comment through the public meetings.
Rather than be on the actual board, I just soon
Okay.
help out as I can.
All right, well, thank you, sir. So then that leaves Mr. Gregory Newman.
Okay.
By default. He is a licensed pilot, he's keeping an aircraft at a hangar there now. been flying out of the airport for 20 years, about 20 years. So, how's that, Mr. Gregory?
Well, someone knows, honestly, we're gonna vote on, we all vote on each of these things.
By default, Mr. Newell.
If he's the fifth.
Okay.
All right, so you could.
And so do we
Motion to-
vote on it as a packet or?
Vote.
How are they gonna meet? Oh, they would probably meet, well, at least once a month. Maybe they need to meet twice a month, or, I beg your pardon?
Do you want to pick a meeting date and time?
Or should we let them choose the meeting date?
Have a special date, you guys?
We have an airport inspection that's due, so we need to get to work.
When's it due, Keisha?
It's due, I need to schedule it, so I need to get with them immediately.
As soon as they can start meeting, and if they have to meet a couple of times the first month, is that all right, Mr. Hartman?
Absolutely.
Or
They do need to, I would add work to Keisha's load, but they just need to post notice of the meeting and all that sort of.
Does it need to be advertised in the paper?
Does not need to be advertised,
Okay.
just notice.
No, they'll have their own secretary and stuff, right?
Yes,
mean,
I would
won't
hope.
be-
And what they would do is you could just give them some initial, like saying, hey, put it on the front of City Hall, put it the.
We could put it on Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that would help speed up if we don't have to wait to get an ad in the newspaper.
And you did see the email today where we're gonna start bidding out for the relocation of the fuel
I
tank
did.
next week.
So they need to start,
Yeah,
they need to start as soon as possible. All right, then, did we say we want to bid on this as a package? Mr. Bert Bolt, Mr. Bert Worthy, Mr. James Bryan, Mr. Tim Sullivan, and Mr. Gregory Newman? Are we going to vote on that as a package?
Yes.
Okay, all
I
right.
would have a question, if I might address Mr. Sullivan. In our last meeting, there was an issue about a power cord. Is that still there?
Yes.
And the issue was taking private electricity from one of the other buildings from the city.
There's no electricity in the hangar that my airplane's in. I have a trickle charger on the battery for the airplane. And Mark had told me, when I needed electricity to plug in with that building, because there's none available there.
Okay.
Do we need to maybe collect a little electric fee from Mr. Sullivan?
I think we need it supplied with current.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like
Okay.
that.
I'm just, trying to see how what we need to compromise
That's what you
here.
guys are gonna do, figure all that out. Yeah, that's what you got for. Yeah.
If he's just charging a battery, I don't see where he's gonna be using it enough to have to even get into those.
I know, and I will say that until I looked at the Fairpoint phone bill closer for the airport this past couple of weeks ago, the airport has been paying about $46 or $48 a month for the phone bill to supply service at the meter pump where they put their credit cards in. For about, I think they've been without fuel for about 2 years. I don't know that for sure. So I did get that phone bill discontinued. So for 2 years, the city has been paying a phone bill for a meter pump that's not been in operation. That was about $48 or $46 a month.
The only reason I brought that up was it seemed to be a pretty big deal in our meeting last month. And so I just wanted to be sure that we're not in, it's not a big, well, Mark said it wasn't a casino, so.
No casino.
So it's just battery charging.
Yeah, it's just a trickle charger.
So it's not all the time then?
No.
All right, then, may we have a motion then to accept these gentlemen as our new Airport Aviation Advisory Board?
Make a motion, yes, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Walden. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Mathis. And so is there any more discussion, any more questions or concerns? All right, then, I just want these fellows to get to work as soon as possible. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so the motion carries unanimous, Keisha. All right.
If they could just get up with me tomorrow and tell me the best day that for y'all to meet.
We'll get y'all going. All right, and then Commissioner Allen has a question.
Okay, now, one of the big problems we had back before was there was not a management plan put together. And so I would suggest that right away that you guys get together and get a good plan of what needs to be done, where all the projects are, and a plan to deal with it. And I think that'd be very helpful. And then we'd know what page we're on and report back to, I guess like Mark did, to Courtney.
No, they
It's
can
an
actually,
administrative issue.
yeah, and they can actually come and report as
the
part
board?
of, yeah, as like the EDC does, if they have something to report.
Now, Bill Rose, that just walked out, gave me a document that came from an airport that he used to be a part of. And it has some real good ideas, and I mean, we're not talking about jets and things like that, but some pretty good guidelines. I'll be glad to pass that along to you if you want to look into developing your plan.
Yeah, the FAA has a real good guideline for small airport operation, and it goes through everything from A to Z. So, but anything will help.
You know, it just might be some ideas in it that that might not come up on the radar. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, and this is a new avenue for tourism, to help bring tourists, especially to Carrabelle West, the west side of Carrabelle. Just kind of.
And who's actually deciding or doing the things now to operate? Who's actually operating out there now?
It's really nice. I mean, Courtney and Weems is doing something, the maintenance out there.
And William has always done the maintenance, that's what I understand.
Okay.
And there's the tractor issue too, y'all need to kind of advise us on that. Yeah. It's a brand new John Deere tractor, and maybe we need to get it under cover somehow or something. All right, so let's move forward to item 4, discussion of possible action regarding Camp Fort Johnson Day Parade permit. Courtney, can you tell us about that?
For the Camp Fort Johnson Parade?
Permit, yes. Or Keisha.
Road closing for, when, did y'all change the dates back?
12th.
It is March.
I'm sorry?
Y'all changed it to March, back to March.
Back to March 12th
March 12th, okay.
is the day of the parade.
March what?
12.
This is for the permit to close the highway for the parade.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Walden to approve the closing of the road March 12th. Any discussion?
The parades will start at 10:45, but they'll start lining up 9 o'clock-ish. So, and hopefully it'll be over by Sunday.
That's great. Don't know if we can approve that one.
I've been to them, I know how long they are.
Yeah, they're fun.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Okay, any more discussion? All right then, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, then the motion carries. All right, number 5, discussion and possible action concerning noise ordinance.
This was brought about, I think, by Mr. Jackson. The noise, he could hear it in his house. He said that his doors were closed, his windows were shut, and he could still hear it. I wish my ears were that good. I checked our code. We do not have a decibel number that is required, but I understand, Gary, that you went out and took some readings.
No, we didn't take any readings. We have a meter now.
You have a meter now. Is there any criteria on the decibels in a certain place? How would that work if we wanted to enforce something like that?
I can bring to the board at the next meeting some sample noise ordinances from around the state. Just quickly, you'll remember we did have this issue pop up before with pirates, I think, in the condos and all that. So whatever we do, the board was not, at that time, obviously different commission, but did not want to change the ordinance that was in place. That was basically any noise loud enough to be a nuisance was a problem, but again, that's so subjective that it wasn't an objective decibel level. But I can I can pull down some sample ones, simple, straightforward noise ordinances. It can be tricky, but I can bring them in, include them in your packages, and y'all can review them, we can figure out what to do moving forward.
I believe
One fellow didn't like the clock.
Apalachicola just passed a new ordinance.
Remember that?
I do.
Apalachicola just passed a new noise ordinance.
You say Apalachicola just passed the noise, okay.
I'll call Pat and get that.
Okay, all right,
That'll
you
give us
can do
one
that
example.
for reference. All right, could we get a motion then to direct the city attorney to bring back some sample noise ordinances, including the one that Apalachicola just passed? Could we get a motion?
I'll make that.
Okay. A second, please.
I'll second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that motion carries. And then item 6, possible action, discussion and possible action concerning McKissick Beach. Discussion and possible action concerning McKissick Beach.
All right, I can take that one. I received an email from DEP that they had received some communication from the residents out there at McKissick Beach that that the residents wanted to, at their expense, put up some additional signage and call it posts to control parking, and what DEP received from them was some reports of people driving on the beach.
That's my understanding. The issue was that they quit driving on the road, but now then they're driving on the beach. And now, the way these signs here, that would also prohibit any launching of boats from this area, would it not?
It would. I mean, to launch a boat, you'd have to drive down on the beach.
I think there are plenty of places to launch the boats, personally.
Remember, historically, this has always been a hot button issue because the mullet fishermen have always run through there, and that they think historically have full.
We did meet, I know that Commissioner Allen and Commissioner Walden did not, but Commissioner Matthews and Massey met with the, last August, I believe it was, with Mr. Eric Larson of the Division of State Lands, and then his supervisor, who's not there anymore. And they did talk about leaving an access to, for licensed commercial fishermen to launch a boat in that area. And they actually, some of their plans talk about, we could, even install some type of a passive ramp facility. We discussed that at length last August. At that point, that was when it was point clear to us that the driving along behind the dunes had to stop. And we asked them, if we turn the management back over to the Division of State Lands, what will happen? And they said they would just block off everything from everyone, any kind of access. So we decided to go ahead and try to develop a management plan. I don't know if the people are here, the people tonight who are working on the management plan, are you working on the management plan, Ms. Taylor?
Well, I am, in the sense that it's our committee that's doing it, and John Wall was on that committee too. But the draft, the person who's writing the draft has not gotten it back to us we haven't seen it, so we can't tell you what's in it.
It's being worked on.
It's being worked on. David's on that committee too. Sure. He will do that.
Did I understand you right, that the state says that fisherman has got a right to use
Well,
that beach?
that's what they said at our discussion. We all met with them individually last August. Yes,
Right.
Mr.
Is
Walls?
this
Mr.
John
Walls?
Walls? I live at 1736 Carrabelle Beach Drive. And Chuck Mansfield, the two neighbors request, and it has to do about the dune itself. We have 22 residents in the McKissick Beach neighborhood, 16 of them are at ground level. Our average elevation is 6 feet. That dune, right there, cutting the dune that the county put in there, makes us susceptible to flood. All we're asking is to stop vehicle traffic through that cut so the dune will repair back so we can protect our properties. Now, as far as access to the fishing, law says that licensed commercial fishermen can drive on a coastal beach when they're doing their fishing. We go down and get the stuff, come back. The law does not quote anything about access at all. Eric Larson verified that. So there's nothing in the statute that gives commercial fishermen the right to cross anybody's land to get to a beach. It only says they can drive a vehicle on the beach to fish. That's
They
all.
wouldn't be crossing any public land.
Yeah, it's
I mean, private land.
Well, that's public, it's also public land, it's environmentally sensitive, conservation land, it's managed land, it's got all kinds of requirements on top of it. But the problem is that cut right there makes us subject to coastal flooding. That little flood we had back in late October, 30 mile an hour winds.
You're gonna be flooded, I don't care if you pile it up 50 foot right there.
That's true. But there's no reason for us to be flooded when the 30 mile an hour southeast wind.
Well, that cut has been there ever since I was in Carrabelle. I've been here 81 years.
In all due respect, that cut was created by the county.
Oh, yes.
In 1999, they hauled off 60 truckloads of sand that day.
They just widened it, they didn't cut it, they widened it.
Maybe so. But they have to continue to maintain the cut, and if we continue to get flooding problems in the Kissimmee Beach because of it, we want to see the dune restored, so that's all we're talking about.
Now, Mr. Larson did write here, do you have his emails, the emails that were circulated? Mr. Larson wrote right here, he says, I do not believe there is a requirement, in italics, I do not believe there's a requirement to provide access to the commercial fishermen. The law is also not specific about providing a proper launch, but he did not quote law, he just said he did not believe there's a requirement. And I think he was referring to Division of State Lands. In the other parts of the email it says he doesn't believe that there's a requirement for Division of State Lands. Now, he's also, Mr. Eric Larson, who's going to help oversee the management plan, isn't necessarily approving this. He said DSL will approve placement of the signs in the middle of the cut with the city's concurrence. So it sounds like, you know, he's going to approve placements of the signs in, you know, in the middle of the cut. I guess whatever these signs are. And then he said, please be aware that this proposal is not being made by the Division of State Lands. He's simply forwarding the information to you, to Dan Hartman, on behalf of the homeowners to be considered by the Carrabelle Commission. I would have to have Mr. Hartman I would suggest do the research. I mean, it's difficult to, I don't know your background and to have you quote law, and I don't know if it's better, I'm just going to go ahead and say, to let the management plan be developed. Who's going to, it seems like Mr. Mansfield said he would donate the poles to the FWC for placement. Has the FWC agreed to this? I don't see any.
To my knowledge, FWC hasn't been contacted on this yet.
Oh, okay. So, we would need to know all of these things, and who's going to put these poles up? Who's, if the FWC, who's going to maintain them if they, there's no more, if they fall apart or they're torn down?
The reason to talk about just some poles is we feel like the management plan eventually will address this a more complete permanent solution, and it has to be something that can be easily pulled out, basically. Okay, so
But if they're removed or torn down, who's going to replace them? Who's going to be responsible for that? Where's the?
right now, probably the neighborhood, because we're the ones that pay for it, but,
And are the private citizens allowed to construct this on the Division of State Lands? There's a lot in question there.
as far as, you're right, my background is, no, I don't have a legal background. We do have the one statute we've been able to find that addresses, like you said, about licensed commercial fishing. But what you're seeing out there are people at night drinking, raising cane, driving out on the beach, or they come down in the morning, they 3-4 trucks sit there side by side, they have their 2 or 3 beers and go on to work, and they call themselves mullet fishing. I bet there's not a single licensed mullet fishing out there. If there is, they're about few and far between. That's some of your citizens, they pay attention to signs, and most of them do go by. Don Lively walks all the way down and throws his net, he doesn't drive fast.
Oh, and we did discuss at the meeting, I believe it was in August, that we really don't want the folks driving on the beach, you know, up and down, east and west on the beach. We call the FWC when that's happening.
Yeah, that's just not even legal.
Yeah,
So we
it's
have
not
to-
legal.
Well, that's it, it's not legal, so let the law handle it.
Well, and the point is too, the city has a little bit of liability there, you're the leaseholder.
No, we don't. No,
And
we
you allow
don't.
people to drive out there, you have children and dogs and animals, you've got a problem there
Sir,
too.
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Your concern's flooding. What's them poles gonna do to stop flooding your property?
Absolutely nothing, but the dune will never grow back until you take the cars off of it.
So,
When the water comes up, it's gonna take care of the dune. It's gonna follow a natural waterway.
You got that?
You'll cut yourself right back through.
You are absolutely correct, and this last time in October, we were about 1 foot from coming down that street. I went 30-mile-an-hour blow out of southeast for one day.
Look at them poor people up on the east coast. They live over behind a 50-foot dune and they've all washed
Well, a
out.
major storm, all that's right, I agree with you.
Okay, let's let Mr. Butler have a say.
Thank you.
Just a moment. Thank you, sir.
Besides the management plan, the dunes, the situation that occurred that affected the business and tourism was when we had a storm and we didn't have a way for the water to get back out to the bay, nor do we have any stormwater method of handling it. The county did something at the west end of the park area, of the new beach park area. And they may have done something, you know, at the old beach. But that was at a request of the Carrabelle RV park at the time, because they had standing water that was, you know, seaweed that was smelling to the high heaven. They did a major action in there to remove it. So besides the management plan, we know that we're going to get high water. We know that seaweed stuff's going to come over all those dunes at some point. So we should have some kind of plan in place for residents. And I know it's not city property, but we need to have some kind of plan of how to react to it, because if I'm not mistaken, the county hired somebody to go in there. They took heavy equipment and they did it within like 2 days. And nobody even knew what was, you know, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. But what we're talking about won't be solved, you know, for that water coming over. Like Commissioner Mathis says, it's going to come, and it's going to be in that area.
And that could be part of the management plan to work with the county to.
But I have a hope that one day we'll raise Gulf Avenue high enough to where there won't be great big puddles there when people go down there to try to park in the avenue to walk across dunes or walk across the boat launch, such that we won't have it.
And this is something, you know, this management plan or items that are included in the management plan is certainly something that could be put forth to restore, you know, for that implementation plan. Would be a very prime project. So, do we want to take any action on this, or?
No action is required, you can table it, come back if you want me to. My understanding off the top of my head on dealing with these issues before is that licensed commercial fishermen can traverse the beach to launch or pull and catch and then have to pull back from it.
Right.
Can't stage there, but I can give you a more complete idea of that at the next meeting, if you want me to.
Mr. Allen, what do you think?
I was just reading this and missed what he said.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'll do a quick look at that, just so we have all the rest of the
Okay.
information.
Would you like to, would anyone like a motion to direct the city attorney to investigate this?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
Okay, all right.
I'll second.
Okay, and then, so we've got a motion and a second. A motion by Mathis and a second by Allen. Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
me, one,
Oh, no, we're just going to, well, go ahead. If you oppose, that's fine. I'm telling you now.
I oppose.
Okay. he's, Mr. Hartman is going, okay, so we have it opposed.
But
Motion
I'm
carries.
in minority here, so it don't matter.
He's going to research on exactly how commercial fishermen can use the
Can I say
access.
this?
Yes, sir.
That beach and them fish is part of our heritage. And when my father fed me the mud
Off of that beach.
off of that beach. So for me to sit here and go against these commercial fishermen, I understand, man, but putting up poles ain't gonna stop that. It ain't gonna stop nothing. It just,
It ain't gonna stop these young from going
You
and throwing
put
a chain
poles-
around and taking them poles down. Fast as he puts them.
That's why we're concerned about who's going to replace.
because you're gonna really, really make some people mad if you put that block out on.
Back when I was a kid, we'd have hooked to his house and pulled it.
We still got, hold on now, we've got one more item that we had to, we want to, item 7, promotion of a part-time police officer to a full-time position. Mr. Hunting, Chief Huntings?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Some of y'all are aware that one of our officers resigned January 28th. Leaving
Resigned,
with
you
a
say?
full-time position. I'm asking the Commission to promote one of our part-time officers to a full-time position.
Okay.
There's Pat Paul, he's been working with us for a little over a month, part-time position. He's not actually certified, he's working under a TEA program right now, and he's actually in school tonight. So for about the next 5.5 months, we'll have 2 officers in school. It's gonna be a little bit tough, but we're gonna have to do what we gotta do.
He's, Mr. Paul is Officer Paul is a certified corrections officer.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your total staff now?
There's me, Deputy Chief
More or less.
Caldwell, she's out right now with an injury, a work-related injury. And we have Gene and Pat, and I'm talking to a female from Tallahassee that we're planning on putting in a part-time position. She just graduated the academy.
So basically, if
That'd be
this
fine
passes.
if we hire this female.
All right, so may we have a big
Oh, and
part?
Johnny Ambrose.
Yes, okay, so you'll have, hopefully 5 full-time and 1 part-time.
Right.
May we have a motion regarding this promotion, full-time position for Officer Paul?
Make a motion, we hire.
Okay, may we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Walden, second by Commissioner Mathis to promote Patrick Paul from part-time officer to full-time position. Is there any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now, may we have a motion to approve the attorney bills, which we're trying to move forward at some better time for sure. Okay.
At time.
Okay, all right.
Take a break and come back, get a 10-minute break, and come back and do that later.
No, we want to approve the attorney bills now.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Good, no, I'm tired.
Okay.
I'll make the motion, we approve this attorney bill.
All right, may we have a second?
Second.
Okay, okay, is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, all right, and then we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.